What are the 7 wonders of Westeros and Essos? Thankfully, George R. R. Martin has given us a handy list in world, so let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. On this channel we cover the lore and history of A Song of Ice and Fire in nerdy detail, as well as The Lord of the Rings, The Witcher and more. Welcome. George R. R. Martin enjoys taking inspiration from our real-world history for his own world, and one of the more fun things he borrowed was the idea of a list of wonders of the world. In his world, the list was compiled by a famous traveller called Lomas Longstrider. We obviously don't have access to his book, Wonders Made by Man, but we do know the identity of 7 wonders that he chose. There are 2 more, apparently, though we don't know what they are. I'll speculate a little more on that at the end of the video. Tyrion, incidentally, is a big fan of Lomas Longstrider. He apparently reread the book so often as a child that it fell apart on him, and he dreamed of one day visiting all those wonders. He's made a reasonable start on that now, but still has a long way to go, as we'll see. Anyway, in no particular order, because we mostly don't know their order, here are the 7 of 9 wonders made by man. Number 1. The Wall. This is probably the most obvious of the wonders because it plays such a central role in the books, but it's easy to forget its sheer scale. 700 feet high at its highest point, that's over 200 metres high, wide enough at the top for a dozen armoured knights to ride abreast and wider still at its base, and 300 miles long. It dwarfs the other wonders in almost every way. This is how it is described to us when we first see it in the books. The largest structure ever built by the hands of man. Benjen Stark had told Jon on the King's Road when they had first caught sight of the wall in the distance, and beyond a doubt the most useless, Tyrion Lannister had added with a grin, but even the imp grew silent as they rode closer. You could see it from miles off, a pale blue line across the northern horizon, stretching away to the east and west and vanishing in the far distance, immense and unbroken. This is the end of the world, it seemed to say. Legend has it that the wall was built 8,000 years ago with the help of giants and the children of the forest, and that the physical wall is supported by a magical barrier just as mighty. That may be the case, but in truth the wall as we know it now is a work of millennia. When first built, it was seemingly a normal, if high, ice wall, but since then each generation of Night's Watch has added to it, making it taller and thicker with ice blocks and gravel scattered along the walkways on the top, ground underfoot by thousands, tens of thousands of Night's Watchmen over the years. The other wonders on this list may be more beautiful or show greater craftsmanship, but the wall does have its own beauty, shining blue or crystalline in the sunlight, glimmering palely in the moonlight and weeping in the summer sun. The wall is immense, breathtaking and ancient, a worthy first wonder. 2. The Triple Walls of Qarth. Qarth calls itself the Queen of Cities, a beautiful cacophony of brightly coloured spires and arches, temples and courtyards, fountains and statues. But the wonder of Qarth is its city walls. There are 3 running concentrically around the outside of the city, each a different colour and height and decorated with different elaborate carvings. They haven't been used defensively for centuries. The red waste provides a strong enough deterrent for most armies, but now they remain as expressions of the city's power and splendour. We see these walls in the books in A Clash of Kings as Dany rides into the city. Through her eyes we see the first wall, 30 feet high, that's about 10 metres, of red sandstone rearing up out of the red waste. It is carved intricately with all kinds of animals, birds soaring above, snakes slithering on the ground, elephants and wolves and zorses. The gate, always guarded, is banded with copper, complementing the deep red of the wall. Inside that is the second wall, higher at 40 feet and of grey granite, its gate banded with cold iron. All around this wall are carved scenes of warfare, the glory of battle and its grim aftermath. The final wall is the highest at 50 feet high, that's about 15 metres, and made astonishingly of black marble. The gate here is studded with golden eyes, and the wall itself decorated with countless scenes of erotic pleasure, enough to make a young Daenerys blush. The overall effect is one to unsettle the visitor and awe them. If a city can decorate its outer walls like this, then what splendours must await inside? 3. The Titan of Braavos. The Titan of Braavos is a massive statue of a warrior guarding the entrance to the lagoon in which the 100 islands of Braavos lie. Everyone who enters the city must pass beneath it. Indeed, we get Arya's impression of it as she enters Braavos. A line of stony ridges rose sudden from the sea, their steep slopes covered with soldier pines and black spruce. But dead ahead, the sea had broken through, and there above the open water the Titan towered, with his eyes blazing and his long green hair blowing in the wind. His legs bestrode the gap, 1 foot planted on each mountain, his shoulders looming tall above the jagged crests. His legs were carved of solid stone, the same black granite as the sea monts on which he stood, though around his hips he wore an armoured skirt of greenish bronze. His breastplate was bronze as well, and his head in its crested half-helm. His blowing hair was made of hempen ropes dyed green, and huge fires burned in the caves that were his eyes. One hand rested atop the ridge to his left, bronze fingers coiled about a knob of stone, the other thrust up into the air, clasping the hilt of a broken sword. An imposing welcome to the city. As befits the advanced technology of the Braavosi, the Titan performs more than one function. It is a lighthouse, fires in its eyes guiding ships into the lagoon, an early warning system for the arsenal of an incoming ship, and a means of telling the time. It issues the Titan's roar, a huge groaning and grinding sound that echoes across the city at dawn and dusk and every hour in between, and when a ship approaches. And it's also a defensive structure. Arrow slits and murder holes allow those garrisoned inside to rain arrows, stones, and boiling oil on any attackers. But it is perhaps as a symbol that it is best understood. The Titan is Braavos. Legend has it that in times of danger it even comes to life and wades out into the sea to attack enemy ships. That is just a legend, but it speaks a truth. The Titan is the first and last anyone sees of Braavos, its roar covering the whole city, and its vigilance never ending, night and day. 4. The Valyrian Roads. In the height of the Valyrian freehold, the Valyrian roads, or dragon roads, were what bound the empire together, allowing trade, commerce and travel between the major cities of western Essos. Most were destroyed with the Valyrian Peninsula at the Doom of Valyria, but some do remain, connecting the free cities and even stretching as far east as Meereen, the so-called Demon Road. But as much as their extent is impressive, it's their substance and design that really stand out. Tyrion stops to take a look during his journey from Pentos to join up with young Griff's party on the Shy Maid. He thinks that they are a ribbon of fused stone, raised 1/2 foot above the ground to allow rainfall and snowmelt to run off its shoulders. Unlike the muddy tracks that passed for roads in the Seven Kingdoms, the Valyrian roads were wide enough for 3 wagons to pass abreast, and neither time nor traffic marred them. They still endured, unchanging, 4 centuries after Valyria itself had met its doom. The roads were broad, arrow-straight, and made of that curious fused stone that the Valyrians loved using. But perhaps most remarkably, despite the roads being in constant use and open to the elements for centuries with no maintenance, they remain perfect, flat and smooth, with no pockmarks, potholes, or even grooves from the countless wagons that have travelled along them. A wonder that grows more wondrous each year. Incidentally, the roads are the only wonder we have a number for. Tyrion confidently asserts that they are 4th on the list, and it is perhaps to Lomas Longstrider's credit that they are there at all. Roads are mundane, often taken for granted, and certainly not the most beautiful wonder, but their scale, stretching thousands of miles, and astonishing durability are undoubtedly impressive. It says a lot that nearly 1/2 millennium after the Doom, no other roads in all Planetos come even close. 5. The Long Bridge of Volantis. One of the places the Valyrian roads go to is Volantis, and indeed the Long Bridge itself at its heart is a fused stone road like the dragon roads spanning the estuary of the River Roine. But this bridge is so much more than that. Again, Tyrion is our guide here. He and Jorah walk over it during their travels. Tyrion still in chains, but clearly impressed by his surroundings. The gateway to the Long Bridge was a black stone arch carved with sphinxes, manticores, dragons, and creatures stranger still. Beyond the arch stretched the great span that the Valyrians had built at the height of their glory, its fused stone roadway supported by massive piers. The road was just wide enough for 2 carts to pass abreast, so whenever a wagon headed west past one going east, both had to slow to a crawl. Buildings rose to either side of them, shops and temples, taverns and inns, cyvasse parlours and brothels. Most were 3 or 4 stories tall, each floor overhanging the one beneath it, their top floors almost kissed. Crossing the bridge felt like passing through a torchlit tunnel. Along the span were shops and stalls of every sort. Weavers and lace-makers displayed their wares cheek by jowl with glass-blowers, candle-makers and fishwives selling eels and oysters. Each goldsmith had a guard at his door, and every spicer had 2, for their goods were twice as valuable. Here and there, between the shops, a traveller might catch a glimpse of the river he was crossing. To the north, the Rhoyne was a broad black ribbon, bright with stars, 5 times as wide as the Blackwater Rush at King's Landing. South of the bridge, the river opened to embrace the briny sea. First, this is, as the name suggests, an impressively long bridge. The Rhoyne at its southern end is so wide, it is said, that someone standing in the middle wouldn't be able to see either shore, and George R. R. Martin has confirmed that it is the longest bridge in his world. It seems to take Tyrion and Jorah a very long time to cross it. If you've ever seen pictures of the old London Bridge, lined by houses and shops leaning out over the water, crammed in one against the other, that's the kind of feel George R. R. Martin was going for here. The Long Bridge is lined with 3- and 4-storey buildings, each storey leaning further in than the floor beneath it, until the top floors almost meet. Crossing the bridge feels like entering a very, very long tunnel lit by lanterns and braziers, and all life seems to be here. Taverns and temples and brothels and shops. You can buy almost anything on the Long Bridge, and though you are on a bridge, you may never even need to see the river, everything is so packed in. A linear city within a city. 6. The 3 Bells of Norvos. We haven't been to Norvos, one of the 9 free cities of Essos, in the books of A Song of Ice and Fire, but in the world of Ice and Fire we learn that Noom, Nada and Nael, the 3 bells of Norvos, are considered one of the wonders. The bells themselves are surely impressive. Each has a different sound. Noom is deep, Nada strong, and Nael higher, and each can be heard clearly throughout the city by its population of perhaps hundreds of thousands. But it is the effect or power of these bells that is its true wonder. Norvos is a true theocracy, being ruled by the bearded priests from their walled city within a city atop the Sinner's Steps, and the priests manage the lives of the people of their city through the 3 bells. They are rung in different combinations throughout the day and night, telling people when to rise and when to sleep, when to work and when to rest, when to pray, and even when married couples are permitted carnal relations. Other wonders may be more beautiful to look at, but few surely can rival the 3 bells' absolute control over people's lives, day after day after day. 7. The Palace with 1,000 Rooms in Sarnath. Finally, this is the wonder that we know the least about, because it no longer exists. The kingdom of Sarnor once ruled over much of the northern part of what we now know as the Dothraki Sea, but then came the Century of Blood after the doom of Valyria, and the Dothraki wiped out almost all of Sarnor, the only remaining bit being Sarth, far to the north. Sarnath was one of those cities destroyed utterly by the Dothraki. It now lies in ruins, known only by the Dothraki as Vaes Kewo, the City of Worms. But in its prime, it was a sight to behold. It was the seat of the High King of Sarnor, king over kings. And the centrepiece of Sarnath of the Tall Towers was the Palace with 1,000 Rooms, a sight so impressive Lomas Longstrider included it in his list of wonders, though sadly we have yet to get anything approaching a description of it other than it, presumably, had 1,000 rooms. But I said there were 2 more wonders that we don't know about, so let's quickly speculate on what they might be. We do have a few clues. The world of Ice and Fire has several references to places Lomas Longstrider visited and was impressed by. The ruins of the Great Pyramid of Geese, on which the Great Pyramid of Marine is based. The ruins of Troirain, once the festival city of the Roinar, now the Sorrows. The Summer Islands, Leng, and the 3 fortress cities that were once the patrimony of Hercune, and probably most significantly, he visited Yi Ti, where he was apparently awestruck by its wealth and cities, declaring that none of the cities of the West can compare with their splendour. Even their ruins, he said, put ours to shame. Did he make it as far as the legendary 5 forts to the east? Perhaps. It seems very likely that at least one of his wonders was in Yi Ti. But what about Westeros? Might there not be one more there? The High Tower is certainly wondrous in its way, being the tallest man-made structure on the continent, and echoes the Lighthouse of Alexandria in our world's 7 wonders. Some have suggested Harrenhal, the largest castle, though that would not have been built when Lomas Longstrider was around, and was partly destroyed by Balerion shortly after it was completed. But what about the Eyrie? A smaller castle than many, to be sure, but beautiful and perched atop a precipitous mountain. It's hard enough climbing up there at the best of times, let alone hauling up all the building materials that would have been needed. A wonder of construction, at the very least. But what do you think? What would you include as the last 2 wonders made by man? Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to see more A Song of Ice and Fire videos, there's a playlist on the left of your screen now. Or to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page on the right of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.